I'm Mickey Zeldes. I'm going to talk to you about microchips, everything you want to know. So I'm going to do some talking points first, and then we'll get to the hands-on demo. So again, everything you wanted to know about microchips, but perhaps you were afraid to ask. Hopefully I'll cover it all. Next. Next slide. Next, I'm from Rohnert Park Animal Services in Sonoma County. Next slide. Okay. Why should you microchip? This is too small for me to see. Why should you microchip? There's lots and lots of reasons. The primary one being that it's a permanent form of identification for your pet. And so it gives them actually a ticket home. It speaks for them when they can't speak for themselves. And, you know, we get so many lost pets. I think the saddest statistic I ever heard was the last one, which is nationwide, only about 2% of lost cats are ever returned home. And if we can do anything to up that statistic, I think it's well worth doing. And microchips is definitely one of the surest way to get your cat and pets back home. And when you think of how few people are willing to put collars and tags and all of that on their cats especially, you can see how valuable the microchip can be. Next slide. I like to compare it to a car for safety. When you're in a car, you put on your seatbelt. That's the first line of protection in case of an accident. And for your pet, a visible tag on the collar is definitely the easiest first line of defense and protection. Anybody finding that pet can help them get home, but we know that tags can fall off, they can be taken off, they can break off in an accident. And so having the second line of defense, which is in a car, your airbags, which are hidden and only become necessary in an emergency. And that's what a microchip is. It's your emergency backup plan in case your pet ever gets lost. And one thing we've learned from all the disasters we've been through, the fires, there's hurricanes, there's earthquakes, there's just a gazillion things that could go wrong. That's when you wish you had a microchip or a form of identification in your pet. And so a microchip is a one-time thing that you do. It lasts the lifetime of the pet. You never have to deal with it again unless you move, and you have to update your information. But it is that backup safety device. Next slide. Next slide. So what exactly is a microchip? It's actually a radio frequency device. It's really small, about the size of a piece of grain of rice, and it's injected into the body of the animal. So it can't fall off. You can't casually remove it. I mean, it really takes a surgery procedure to remove it. And it's sterile, it's biocompatible so that it doesn't cause a reaction in the body of the animal. It's super easy to do. Next slide. Just to be clear though, what a microchip isn't, what it can't do, it's not GPS. You cannot sit home and watch where your pet is roaming from your phone or your TV. So it doesn't have that capability. It's not a GPS finder. There are those available if you want to add them to the collar of your pet. It's certainly a good idea, but it is a permanent form of identification. Next slide. So how does it get into the body of the animal? Super simple, as I've said. It's like giving any vaccination. So it's a needle that has this microchip in it, and you just plunge it into the animal and insert the chip. Usually in the center of the back where it's easy to scan, and there's a lot of fat tissue there to catch it. to hold it in place. Takes just a few seconds to actually put a microchip into your pet, so it's not a big deal. Next slide. So I will be demonstrating how to actually insert a microchip at the end of this. How does the chip work? It's a radio frequency, so you do need a scanner to read it, which is so the casual person on the street finding your pet doesn't know the chip is in the animal. Some microchips come with a tag to put on the collar so that it says, hey, I'm microchipped, be sure to have me scanned. Other than that, you wouldn't know. So, but any veterinarian office or any shelter has the capability to scan your pet. You can bring it in and it's like, I consider it a magic wand. And that's what we call it. You just wave that magic wand over the pet and the chip comes up. It's programmed, that microchip is pre-programmed with a 10 to 15 digit unique number that's assigned to your animal. It's the only animal in the whole world that will have that number. So that's really the information that comes up on the scanner. So a lot of people are like, how do I reprogram it if I get a new phone number? You don't have to worry about that. It's the information in the database that needs to be updated. And that's super simple to do. So all the microchip's going to tell the person scanning is that unique code. You can go to the national database, put in that unique number, and voila, all your information comes up. And the benefit of that too is the amount of information that can be stored in the database is infinite. You can have secondary contacts, you can have a third contact, your vet can be a contact, you can put in special medication your pet's on. I mean, it can really work for you, and as well as be an identifier. The most important thing though is that that microchip is registered. There is nothing sadder to me, I mean, working in a shelter, than scanning a pet, having a number come up, and you going, yay, here's an animal going home, and it's unregistered. And it's a dead end in finding the owner. Next slide. So some frequently asked questions. So how old does the animal have to be chipped? As long as it's big enough, actually just to contain the chip, people microchip small animals. We tend to wait till they're about 8 weeks old, although we have done foster kittens younger than that. So there's no really age requirement. And then certainly a chip will last the lifetime of a pet. When you figure the lifetime of a pet at the most is 25. They do horses, so even a chip will way outlast a 30-year-old horse. These microchips can last years. So speaking of what animals can be chipped, we microchip all dogs, cats, and the rabbits adopted from our shelter. Other places, like I say, horses are microchipped. I've heard of koi, valuable parrots can be microchipped. Microchips are also used with wildlife for tracking, not physically tracking, but monitoring where they are or how they're doing out in the field. So virtually any animal can be microchipped if you want to pay the money and get that done. Can the chip fall out? If it's inserted properly, no. Like I said, it would have to be surgically removed. I know that it's possible to not insert it properly, so you always want to make sure before you leave that it's inside the body. We double and triple check before we send an animal out. Can a pet be double chipped? That has happened. We always scan before we implant because some people bring in a pet and don't remember they've had it done, or they've gotten the pet from a friend and they didn't know it had a chip, so you always scan first. But it is possible to miss a chip when you're scanning if your reader is low on battery or you don't have a good technique to scan the whole body of the animal. And so occasionally they'll get double chipped, which is not the worst thing in the world. The key point for that is just make sure both chips are registered, because you never know which one's going to be found first when they're being scanned. So you want to make sure both are current with your information. Are there side effects? Not really. Like I said, it's like an injection. It's very sterile and done properly. You can occasionally get a little raised bump at the site, but there is no long-term reaction expected. You're not actually implanting anything that's going to affect the body systems. Is it painful? There's always the drama, queen cat, or the dog who, but it's no worse than any other vaccination they'll get. And there are ways to make it as gentle as possible, and it hurts for less than a second. You're protecting them for their whole life. So I think it's a good trade-off. And they don't need any recovery time. You don't have to worry about not bathing them. I mean, it's super easy. Can you feel the chip? Occasionally you can. It depends on how much fat is on your animal. My dog's microchip actually migrated, and that's one thing that can happen. Microchips can move in the body if it's not deep in the fat tissue. So it migrated to the front of his chest, and I could feel it. But it's there, and I knew it was there, so it was easy to find. Next slide. So questions you should ask if you're considering getting a chip, and you're looking at the different brands, because right now there's 100 different, that's a slight exaggeration. There's many different brands of chips out there. Different vets use different ones. So some of the questions you might want to ask is, besides the cost of purchasing the chip, is there any ongoing costs? Does that cost include the registration? There used to be a time when you could buy the chip separate from the registration. I don't know why you would ever want a chip not being registered. So make sure that that's included. And then clarify, will the place that's microchipping take care of registering, or do you need to go home and do that? Because again, an unregistered chip, it's not worth the time or money to get one if you're not going to have it registered. I think most shelters, and we of course, will take responsibility. We want to make sure it's initially registered to you, so we do it ourselves. You want to ask whether it's going to cost to update the information. It used to be, a money-making proposition. Oh, we'll sell a microchip, and then we can sell an annual subscription, and then we can charge every time they want to update their information. And I think we've gone 180 degrees the other direction, and now it's like, we just want everybody microchip. So why make it expensive? Why make it difficult? Why make it, a process? So ask whether there's a cost to that. And a lot of the newer chips give you, as the owner, 24/7 access to that database. So you can actually update the information yourself. You can double check it's spelled correctly. You can make sure it's all entered the way you want. And that's a benefit too, because if you're just traveling briefly, you can go up and change that information day by day if you want, as you travel with your pet. Then a lot of the chip companies also offer different alert systems. So one is, if the pet is lost, they'll put out an alert to different places, shelters and vet clinics, saying that the pet is lost. But there's also a way, especially for a shelter, when a pet comes in, we scan it, find a microchip. By going to that registry, one click of a button, automatically sends out an alert to the owner. And the chip we use, Found Animals, gives both a voice message, text message, and an email will go out immediately to the owner and will repeat for 4 days. And on the second day, an alternate contact, if listed, will also be sent all those alerts. And if you have a vet on file, they'll be added to the alert. So every way possible to get a hold of you, to let you know that your pet was found, and it's all by one click on the computer. How fabulous is that? Okay, so now we're going to go to the live part of the demonstration. Can you get to it? Okay, so first I want to show you how the registry looks in the computer. So this is the microchip lookup, and it's a free place for you to put, it'll take any brand of chip, because usually then the second thing you find a microchip, you have to figure out which brand of chip, which registry do I contact, how do I go about finding the owner information. But this is a universal database. So I put in a microchip here, it happens to be my pet's, and by clicking the search button, it'll pull up all the information. So this pet is registered to me, her name is Bella, she's a female golden, and so on. Gives more information. And you can see how easy that is to just find the owner, contact them right away. Okay, so I'm going to actually demonstrate how to implant a microchip and how to scan for one, so you can see how quick and easy it is. Just give me a minute to get my animal ready.
Can you see yourself in this?
Okay, so here we have a little kitten that needs a microchip. So this is the scanner, and there's different kinds of scanners. You want to make sure you're using a universal, so it reads all the different brands of chips. You just wave this magic wand, and it's going to tell me that there's no chip hiding in this body. Nope. And then the microchip, as I pointed out, comes in a sterile packaging. I'm going to scan that, make sure the chip is reading properly, and it is. You can see that's the 15-digit code that goes to this animal. Okay. So I'm going to go right between the shoulder blades. I'm going to put this microchip, make sure this needle's super sharp. It just goes in, comes out, and that's as quick and easy as it is. This cat is now microchipped and protected for life. Again, I'm going to scan it, make sure that it's reading. I love that beep. I don't know if you could hear the beep, but that's the sound of an animal going home. I love it. Okay, what a good kitty cat. Then the second part is to put this chip number into the computer, which we'll do later, and know that this cat will be registered when adopted, and all that information will be sent to the national database. Okay, and I'm going to demonstrate a dog. So this is one of our new dogs coming up for adoption. We microchip everything before it goes home. Again, I'm going to verify that there's no chip in this. And one thing again, because they can migrate, you want to make sure that you're scanning the whole body. And then I'm going to verify that the chip works. Okay. So right between the shoulder blades, pull up. Hi. Oh, two little squeaks. There we go. And now he's protected for life. And we'll verify that that chip's in there.
He's okay. I know.
I have a low battery. We'll scan him again later. Yeah. So.
I have one question from the audience.
Okay.
Susan asks, is there only one national database or multiple?
So sadly, it's a little bit competitive, and a lot of the microchip companies manage their own database. So that does make it a little confusing. One of the things I liked about this pet microchip lookup is it will accept any brand of microchip in their database, but not every database company imports into it. So yeah, the answer is no, there's several databases. Sometimes you have to search through. This program, if it's not registered in the program itself, it will tell you which brand of chip and how to get a hold of them. So again, this is always, from a shelter point of view, our first place to go to trace a microchip.
Do all veterinarians have one of these?
Most vets would have a scanner. Most vets do sell microchips and do microchips, but not every single one. They're quite costly. I think they're well worth the money, but then again, vets don't often want to get into the argument of whose pet is it. If you found a pet and there's a chip, it becomes kind of gray area. All shelters have them though, so you can always go to a shelter and have a stray you found scan. And that's the first thing we recommend if you find a pet, is that you take it in to be scanned for a chip.
That's interesting, because we were always told, Laura has it, you should go to a vet because they can scan it, but you should actually probably go to a shelter, because I have more chance of having a scanner and are better able to get them matched with their owner.
True, and shelters take loss reports, which vets don't. So even if there's not a chip in the pet, we can look through our loss binder of calls that have come in. So often we can match up that way too. So to me, I mean, the shelter should be the first place you go.
I think you answered this, but it's a little deeper now. We talked about the chances of the microchip migrating, and you said that can happen. Are there any health concerns if it does migrate?
No. You know, it doesn't negatively affect the body in any way. We have found microchips way down by the elbow, because, you know, when you think of gravity and the movement of an animal, can shift it down. But it's completely safe. It's surgical quality material, so it's not going to affect the body.
Another question is, are there instances of microchips being registered to the wrong pet? For example, a cat that is chipped being registered as a dog. Is it easy to fix if that happens?
It is easy to fix, yeah. I mean, anytime you're working with a database, it's only as accurate as the typist putting in the information. So certainly things can get switched, especially if people come in with 2 or 3 pets at a time, they can get mixed up. But you know, no system is perfect. This is the best we have right now to try to reunite pets. And the cost has come way down. I don't know if anybody is concerned about that. They used to be $40, $50, $60, and now most places, I mean, $10, $5. And we actually, and we're proud of this, so I'm going to brag about it, but we offer our residents, because we're a municipal shelter, so we offer our residents of Rohnert Park and Katati free microchips. It's called, you know, we want to be able to return your lost pet home.
So obviously every rescue group chooses their own chip company. Is there a way to choose those? Is there a preference? Like how does one decide, okay, I'm going to use this chip company or that chip company? Is it based on price? Or?
Usually, unfortunately, that's the driving question. Some chip companies give shelters free software or other, rewards for it. There, again, if all chips work, if they work, if you put them in properly, if you register them, they'll get your pet back home. But that list of questions that I gave you to ask, I mean, as a consumer, if you're looking to purchase a chip for your pet, you might want to ask, again, is the registry included? Is it easy to update the information? Those kinds of things.
Okay. Are there any main differences between, I should say, among all the different companies? They all have the same concept.
There used to be 2 different frequencies of chips. I think we've pretty much all gone to the same frequency, so there really isn't any physical difference. There's mini chips that they say is, if you have a small pet, but you could see how quick and easy, this didn't hurt, it's not a big deal. So no, there's not really any major differences.
So, I'm sorry, did you say that would I use is it the same size chip for all dogs, or can you get a mini chip for a Chihuahua?
There are companies that offer a mini chip. Like we don't have them here because we've never found that it's an issue to.
Right.
I mean, the size difference is centimeters. I mean, it's really minuscule.
Okay. Is there any reason to ever remove or update a new version of the chip? You said they last 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, chips have been around since the 1980s, and I don't know that there's ever been a reason. Like I said, there used to be 2 frequencies, and if you were traveling to Europe, they were on a different frequency than we were, but now we're all on the same frequency.
So if I have pets and I'm going to move and maybe get a new phone number and a new address, what's the first thing I should do?
Contact the company, the database that your chip is in, and update it. And that is, I know it's out of sight, out of mind. It's hard to remember. You're doing your address forwarding at the mail. You just need to remember, I want my pet returned home.
Absolutely. Somehow we forget that part.
Yeah. It's nicer now that cell phones are permanent. It used to be every time you changed phone companies, you got a new phone number. But now we're finding, for example, just yesterday, we returned a pet home. I was so happy. A 16-year-old cat. It was microchipped 16 years ago. And the first phone number, of course, was disconnected and out of date, but the cell phone was the same. And it connected us to the owner, who had moved several times, but we were able to track down that person.
I'm going to go home after this and check all of my updates. I have 3 different companies. 3 different animals came from different places, so I have to keep track of 3 different registries.
And so again, if you want to just enter them all into Found Animals, it's free. You can take all 3 different chips, put them all in one database, and know that it's findable by anybody.
That's fantastic. Is there a right age to microchip a pet? Is it too young ever?
No, I mean, we wouldn't do a newborn. I mean, we wouldn't do something if it can't crawl away yet. But really, 4 to 5 week old kittens, we've done it. When we get in the babies and we're sending them out to foster, because if they get away, if they escape, we want to get them back.
Well, that's all the questions we have, but we're really grateful for this information because it has been a mystery and people don't really understand it or understand the importance of it, and you've made that very clear today. So thank you very much. We totally support this with customers who come into Pet Food Express. We always remind them to microchip. We just have to remind people now to update.
Yes, that needs to be the next month.
Thank you so much.